Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever the fuck you're listening. Welcome to another episode of Tailgate Trash Talk. Episode
Some.
something 7, 8, somewhere around there.
We're talking week 6 and week 7, so right in there
That's right.
somewhere.
That's right. That's right. So we had a great week of college football last week. Great top 25 matchups. Had some other good football games going. My man Gary Freeze sitting next to me. Gary, how you doing, bud?
Doing good, man. You said it. Good weekend of football. Great matchups. Some upsets. Some surprising results for sure. We might or might not see Bryce Young back. It was interesting seeing how Bama played last week without him. They were pretty bad. But hey, another great week of football to talk about this week. A couple of big time top 25 matchups this week.
Yeah, and it's so far it's like past few weeks it's been like, okay, like
Yeah.
let's get some games going, and they're on TV, they're on some some prime time slots
Oh
as
yeah.
well,
Oh yeah.
and so that's what's been really nice too is
Absolutely.
uh, so before we dive into last week's games or anything else like that, what 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 game to you stood out the most?
Um, it's a little bit of kind of the Bama Texas A&M really stuck out to me. I mentioned it to you in our chat. I don't know that he necessarily made his Heisman stock any better, but if there was an MVP award, right? If it wasn't best player in college football for the Heisman, right? If there was just like the NFL has for an MVP, I certainly think that last week we saw Bryce Young's MVP stock
Go up.
kind of skyrocket
Absolutely.
with how bad Bama's offense looked.
Yeah.
And it's for me, like that's a big thing that indicates to me that Bama's kind of teetering right now, because we've seen in the past where they go away from Hurts and they go to Tua and they win a bunch of games, and Mac Jones comes in and just wins a bunch of games. Bryce Young follows up with that. They don't have the depth at quarterback that I think they've had in years past. And I do think that Milroe is going to be good, right? I think he's got a lot of talent. I think he's very athletic, but I think there's a reason why they were very cautious with Bryce Young last week, because they know that their offense goes as Bryce Young goes this year, especially. They don't have all the, we've talked about it. They don't have all the weapons on the outside. And we saw A&M really clamp down on Jahmyr Gibbs and that running game, and that Bama just couldn't get it going. And they got the win. That's the most important part for a team that's got playoff aspirations. But they've got to get Bryce Young good, especially this week, facing a really tough Tennessee team. So it was just eye-opening for me. There were some better games on the slate last week, but that one was really eye-opening for me in terms of this Bama team is not as bulletproof as Bama teams have been in the past.
Yeah, and we talked about it last week. I know I definitely touched base on it, but with Bryce Young being out, I still really did think that Alabama was going to take it to A&M. But it just shows you the caliber that Bryce Young is as a quarterback, as a college football player. And you said it, draft stock,
God,
MVP stock, Heisman stock. You saw firsthand last week what that team, what that offense is without him. Yep. Now, take it back a few weeks to the Alabama-Texas game. Alabama doesn't win that game without Bryce Young. And Texas had a backup quarterback who was injured as well.
Yep.
So yeah, I definitely, absolutely. We'll get to Bryce Young later on in the segment or in the show with the Heisman Stock Report. So one game for me that stood out, and I think I mentioned it in between our conversation. I can't remember if it was you and me or my Nebraska buddies. The Oklahoma Texas
Yeah.
game. And so correct me if I'm wrong here, but I know I at least mentioned it. Venables. High aspirations to start the season. Started off great.
They looked pretty good through 2
really
weeks.
Good. They looked really good. And then I said last week, it's the curse of Nebraska. You play Nebraska, you win, you start going downhill. You're over. You're over since you played Nebraska.
Yeah.
Just like a lot of other teams. But the one comparison that I made with Oklahoma and Venables is Venables the next Will Muschamp? Both great defensive coordinators. You saw what Muschamp did at Texas with Mac Brown down there and everything. Okay. You saw what Venables did at Clemson for the 10, 11, 12 years that he's been there. Okay. Once you transition to that head coaching role, it's different. Now, granted, we are only in the first year and only 5-6 games in for Venables. But that defense is not the defense we're accustomed to seeing with Venables.
Yeah. You hit it on the head, right? Like, and Andy and I talk about this rule a lot on the blitz. It's the +1 rule, right? When you're a really, really good coordinator, but not a good head coach, right? Do you get hired into one position too many, right? Is it one too many promotions for you? And I think it's possible, I don't want to just sell the farm on Venables yet, because I do like the guy. I think he's a great defensive mind, but it is different being a head coach. And I think that what you and I talked about in like week 3 or 4, that Venables might miss Dabo more than Dabo misses Venables, might be even more true after a 49-0 drubbing at the hands of Texas.
Yeah.
This big time rivalry wasn't much of a rivalry game this past weekend.
Absolutely.
I mean, that was bad.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Bad. Absolutely. So, all right. So we highlighted a couple games that, kind of caught our eye last week. So let's dive into to the top 25 matchups from last week, and let's review it here. So South Carolina, Kentucky. Woo, baby. Cock Commanders. Going into Council-Tucky. Getting the dub. And I love it. Not just because I called.
You did.
Not just because I called the W for the Gamecocks, and I'm officially a Cock Commander now for the Gamecocks. Just kidding, I'm not. But I love it because there's some back and forth between Stoops and Beamer back in the offseason, talking about culture and everything else like that. And I love it. I love it. South Carolina gets the dub and come into the locker room, and Soldier Boy, baby, Soldier Boy Beamer comes out, starts dancing, puts on the shades. Let's go. You can't tell me that he has not changed that culture, that winning mentality, that attitude. You can't tell me that he has not done that in South Carolina. I know he's only in year 2 and everything, but I've seen a lot of other coaches be in year 2 and not see the progress like Beamer has in South Carolina.
Yeah, for sure. And, we played that video either in week 1 or before week 1 of him talking to the boys up in the stands. You brought it up, and, making them appreciate, right, what you're playing for. You're not just playing because you're an athlete. You're not just playing because you got a scholarship to South Carolina. There are fans that make the drive every week. They walk the 10 miles or the mile or whatever from the parking lot, and then up the hundreds of steps to get to their seats. So that right there instills, as you put it, a culture change, right? We're not just here to play football. you're not this just special athlete. There's more to you. There's more to what you mean to this community. There's more to what you mean to this alumni community. There's more to what you mean to this university. And it's starting to show on the field. Last year was a bit of a struggle still, but the cupboard was really bare. Muschamp didn't leave them anything to really mess with. This year, it's starting to look like Beamer ball is starting to take hold. I still don't love Rattler there, but they needed a quarterback and they got a guy that has some arm talent. But I like what Beamer's doing here. He's changing things in South Carolina. This was a pretty unexpected win, in my opinion, a 10-point win. You called the upset, but to win by 10, that was impressive for South Carolina against a highly ranked, tough Kentucky team that had aspirations of potentially competing in the SEC East. Those are really out the window for them. So what a big win for South Carolina. This is a feather in the cap win for Mr. Beamer and in the Gamecocks. So that's a little pup going, huh?
Yeah, she wants to play. All right. Moving on. Michigan, Indiana. Michigan taking care of business here, 31-10. And really on this one, not much of a battle, anything else like that. We both called this one. So next one, Tennessee, LSU. Tennessee coming out victorious and by a wide margin too. 40-13 here.
Yeah.
We called it.
Yeah.
We called it. And we said, it's not the same. You're not going into Baton Rouge at night or anything else like that. This was a noon game, and Tennessee took it to them. They took them to the woodshed, bud.
This ain't your older brother's Tennessee team, right? This is not Tennessee of the last 10, 12 years. This is high-powered, unstoppable offense. LSU had no answer for Tennessee's offense. And Brian Kelly showed his hand early. He knew that they were going to struggle because they were going for it on fourth downs, a little longer fourth downs, and trying to really push the envelope. And instead of playing typical what I would think Brian Kelly offense would be if he felt like he had the horses to compete. So early on, it was pretty clear that Brian Kelly was aware they weren't going to be able to keep up with Tennessee. They were going to have to do some special things to really have a chance. And Tennessee just put the boots to him, man. 40-13. We talked about it. I was telling everybody that would listen. I've got this other group chat that a bunch of degenerates want to put in wagers all the time. Like, lay the points with Tennessee. There's no chance that LSU is going to be able to keep up with them. Find an alternate line that you can lay 10, 12, 15 points because they're going to boat race them. This isn't Death Valley at night. This isn't LSU of the past. Brian Kelly hasn't had a full recruiting class to get anything going there. It's not the Notre Dame teams that he was able to put out there and play suffocating defense. Tennessee, they showed out too. They put up some big points, made a statement, really. When you go into Baton Rouge and beat up on LSU that way, no matter what LSU team you're getting, that makes a statement in the SEC. And this week is another huge game for them. There was the idea that they would look past LSU. Heupel said, no. We're going into Baton Rouge and we're going to smash. And then we're going down to Tuscaloosa here, and we'll see. We'll see how things go there. So,
well, the game is in Knoxville.
Well, that's right. They are hosting it. But either way, they got Bama this week.
Yeah, that's right.
You're right.
All right. TCU, Kansas, game day, 38-31 TCU. I called this one.
Me too.
I think you did too.
Yep.
The one thing out of this game that I did get that I didn't think I would was Kansas did show me that they are pretty legit in the Big 12. I think they are a team to watch out for. Now, are they at the same caliber as, a Baylor, Okie State? Time will tell. Time will tell. But I honestly thought that TCU was going to be at least a 2-score victor in this
run
match.
Away. They just seem to not really put their foot on their throat when they had them down. And Kansas, they took a lead at one point in this game later, and after being down quite a bit, TCU just couldn't finish them.
Yep. Yeah. So kudos to Kansas for sticking in there and really showing what they are made of. So believer out of them now. But let's see how they bounce back now after that loss. Because last time that they went, I believe started 5-0, they ended up going 0 for the rest
Yeah,
of the season.
it didn't finish well.
Yeah. So
it did not finish well.
Yep. So let's see where they end up here. So all right.
We got game days in Knoxville this week, right?
Yeah,
For the
game
Bama
days.
game. That's
Yep.
right. Yeah. I
Yes,
forgot
sir.
they were hosting.
Arkansas, Mississippi State. I called this one. I think you did as well. And I said, if Arkansas doesn't win this game, it's going to be a
long
year for him, because now that's 3 in a row. That's 3 in a row. They started off strong. They were in the top 10. And then you had Alabama. You had Mississippi State. You had A&M. I mean, man.
I think they lost to Ole Miss too, right? Has that been in the mix?
Possibly.
Maybe not.
But it's
rolling downhill right now.
Yeah. Yep. I said it last week, if they don't get this victory, it's going to be a long season for them, because you're in the SEC. There are no real easy games in the SEC. So
they haven't played Ole Miss yet, so it's just 3 in a row.
And they can certainly turn things around. They just, they kind of ran into
They've made a lot of
self-inflicted
mistakes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Absolutely.
The fumble at the goal line against A&M was the difference there. They had a couple against Alabama that let that thing get out of hand. And then this one, same way. They'd gone for it on a 4th down and missed, and then they had a fumble on the next drive, and suddenly Mississippi State's up by like 21. And you're wondering, is Arkansas ever going to turn it on and show up? But clearly they did. I mean, they put some points on the board, and just when you start to think they're going to get back in the game, Ole Miss goes and scores a couple touchdowns, and the game's 40-17 when you finish. But dude, Mike Leach's got that offense fucking humming.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. I like it. I like it. All right, South Florida, Cincinnati 28-24. A lot closer game than both of us anticipated here. But Cincinnati did get the dub. Auburn, Georgia started off a little close for maybe just about a quarter, and then after that, Georgia took the restrictor plate off.
Yeah,
and they were out the gates from second quarter on. Ended up just killing Auburn here. No surprise there either. So Texas Tech, Okie State 41, Texas Tech 31. Good back and forth game here. Yeah. And Okie State came out on top, and Gundy got the dub, and they're living large there in the top 10 in the Big 12. So
yeah, they're winning ugly this year, which
they are.
I don't know that they can continue to do that down the stretch. They're going to have a little bit of a test this week as well, but I just think that they've got to tighten things up in Stillwater, or else they're going to drop a game they shouldn't drop if they're going to play that way the rest of the way.
Have a bad loss.
Yeah, so they've got to tighten up. It's the bonehead plays. They're getting late penalties. Central Michigan, they were up by like 50. Let them back in the game, and they literally gave Central Michigan an opportunity. If they'd have recovered an onside kick, they could have tied the fucking game up, because Oklahoma State just kept getting penalties or fumbling the ball or passing the ball. They're up 40 with 2 minutes left or 5 minutes left, and they're passing. Like, it's just a combination of all these things that Oklahoma State just keeps winning ugly, and that's not typical Mike Gundy football. So I at some point, I expect them to clean it up. It's just
Mhm.
when are they going to clean it up? Is it going to take a bad loss for them to really open their eyes and say, okay, now we got to clean it up? And it might be too late. I don't know that a one-loss Big 12 team has any chance at the playoff this year. I just don't. I don't see it. I don't see it.
They'd have to lose now.
Yeah, and have a chance to recover for sure.
Yeah.
But it's in my opinion, it's still going to be tough.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think that we're going to have an undefeated Big Ten. We're going to have an undefeated SEC champion. Probably going to have a one-loss Alabama or Georgia. There's going to be one spot left. And if somebody goes undefeated in the Pac-12.
I think you're still going to have – you could still have a one-loss Big Ten too.
Possibly even, right? If it's Michigan and Ohio State, one knocks the other off. It's going to really depend on how those things play out. Obviously, the Big Ten championship could play into that as well. But yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right that it's one of those things that if Oklahoma State doesn't clean it up now, they might put themselves in a situation that playoff aspirations will go right out the window.
Yep, absolutely. Utah, UCLA. UCLA at home gets the dub 42-32. Gary, you called this one. I had Utah. You took the fighting chips, and you came out victorious in this one.
I am fully on board. I love Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I love what Chip's got the guys going and doing. UCLA's humming. The defense is playing pretty well. I'm fully on board. This is the second week in a row they were underdogs, and we got them. So this is I love what I'm seeing from UCLA. I know you don't like Chip. And
I don't, but I told you in our group message or in our message thread that I need to start believing in Chip and UCLA here because I think
he's good for college football too because he's a personality. He's a good personality at that level. I don't think his personality worked in the NFL, obviously, but I think here at the college level, I think his personality works. The style that they play, I'm fully on board though with UCLA right now.
Yeah, no, as you should be. Ohio State, Michigan State, 49-20. Ohio State, not even a game.
Is Michigan State going to start trying to figure out ways to get their money back?
That's on them. That's on them for doing
it. It is.
I have no remorse for them. I have no sympathy for them. None whatsoever.
Oh, they went crazy last year. They were feeling real good last year.
Real good.
Spend a boatload of fucking money.
Yep. Real good.
Oh.
Ole Miss, Vandy. Not even a game here. Ole Miss taking care of business. Washington, Arizona State. The Huskies travel down to Arizona State to Tempe and lose by a tud. None of us saw this one coming.
Against a rudderless Arizona State team.
Yeah.
Arizona State was just moving the ball on them like they weren't even playing defense. It was crazy. They were playing fucking, walkthroughs at practice. It seemed like they were scoring so fucking fast. Washington laid an egg. I don't know if it was a hangover from the loss to UCLA or not, but they got whipped around a little bit by Arizona State. Made it close late. Penix got going a little bit late, but that's a really bad loss against an Arizona State team that is just collapsing. The infrastructure is collapsing.
Yeah, absolutely. Clemson, Boston College, Clemson 31-3. Not even a matchup here. Clemson rolled 31-3 here. Washington State, USC. Washington State 14, USC 30. I was really hoping. I think I called USC. I called the Trojans, but I was really hoping for Washington State to pull off the upset. And it might be time for me to start believing in Lincoln Riley and Caleb Thompson. They're in LA.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
We'll see. We'll see. Army, Wake Forest, 45-10. You said it best. Did Army even get the memo that they had a game?
They were behind 35-0, like in the blink of a fucking eye. It was crazy. Wild.
Yeah, and on this one too, it Gary Frey Sr., hello, sir. Aaron, Jason, thank you guys for joining us as well. On this one as well, there wasn't a lot of stat padding by Sam Hartman here, which I was really hoping for. I really was, because that's what seems to be the trend in these games with these Heisman candidates, especially with USC and Ohio State. And we'll get to that later, Gary. We'll get to that later. But
sure.
I was really hoping for a little bit more stat padding.
Yeah, I know Wake Forest is kind of a run first, play action style of offense, but I'm with you. I would have liked to see them maybe force the issue a little bit with Sam Hartman here, because I do think that there's going to come a point where he's going to get on the Heisman radar. And, I still don't have.
He already is. He already is.
I know, but not on the national level.
He's on the Tailgate Talk Trash.
He is on the Tailgate Trash Talk
Report.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But he's not on the national radar. I think he's going to get there, but I think it's these games right here, you just mentioned it, they didn't give him an opportunity to really pad the stats. And like it or not, right? Like that's the reality of the Heisman voting is those things stick out. You have your Heisman moment, you have your Heisman game, your statement game.
Yeah, you have your wins against good teams, and you have your stats. That's what they're looking at now.
Yep, absolutely. So I think it is a game like this that could potentially be maybe a lot of a hindrance for him in terms of a Heisman campaign on the national level. And it's hard sometimes to say like Wake Forest needs to kind of focus on that, because they're still undefeated and they've got a chance to win the ACC. And I think they've got playoff aspirations and they've got potential to maybe sneak in and steal one of those playoff spots. They've got to hold serve and they've got to knock off Clemson here. But it's hard to look at it and say, man, you couldn't have just got him one or two more tutties. Like you guys were up and it was 38-0. It was more than I even said, 38-0 before Army even decided to try to get on the board. I think you could have gotten Hartman a little more in this game. But in the same breath, like I understand they don't want to change their style of offense because it's who they are. It's one of those kind of double-edged swords. You really want to see them help Hartman's campaign, but they're out there to win games, I guess.
Yeah. Yep. BYU, Notre Dame, 20-28 Notre Dame here. This game was in Vegas. I took the Cougs. I took the Cougs here. I can't remember. Who'd you take here, Gary?
I had Notre Dame, but by like a 2-point game. I took BYU with the points, but I thought Notre Dame was going to eke this one out.
Yeah.
I'm happy to see Marcus Freeman. They're back, right? Notre Dame's back. At least they've recovered from the beginning of the season where they took some bad losses. So I like Marcus Freeman, and I hope for success for him. I thought it was going to be a tough season for Notre Dame. I didn't expect them to lose the games and the way they did early in the season, but it seems like they're playing good defense. BYU hit a couple of big plays, but for the most part, Notre Dame ran the ball well, used their big tight end, who's going to be a tremendous NFL player, and really played their style of football here against BYU. And I was a little worried. I thought BYU was going to have an opportunity here to kind of take over, because they cut it to, I think, 2 points at one point before Notre Dame scored their last touchdown, or 1 point even before Notre Dame scored their last touchdown. But BYU couldn't answer the bell after that. So good game. This was a great game to watch, from a football perspective. But it feels good to see Marcus Freeman getting some wins here, because I was worried that he may be a one-and-done guy in Notre Dame, and I'd hate to see that for him, because I like the guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Kansas State, Iowa State. Man, this was a barn burner.
Dude, scorcher.
Barn burner here. Kansas State.
This was Broncos Colts all over again.
Exactly.
Except they scored a touchdown.
Right? Oh, Kansas State 10, Iowa State 9. A little bit of a lackluster game here as far as points being scored. But nonetheless, Kansas State stays hot. And Iowa State keeps on trending downward.
Yeah. It's a good win for them, for Kansas State. It wasn't a good game for Adrian Martinez if he had any thoughts that he might get into the, Heisman discussion late in the season. So he was on a trend there. There was some momentum there, but that's a tough game. That's a tough game to reconcile with the Heisman voters.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Texas A&M, Bama, 20-24. Bama comes out victorious here. And I think we touched base on this, at the start of the show. We saw what Bryce Young means to Bama and what he brings to the table. And his Heisman, his MVP, whatever kind of stock you want to put on it, it grew, and he didn't even play a game. He didn't even play in this game, but his stock grew because he means that much to this Alabama offense.
That was a pedestrian offense without him.
Yeah.
They weren't just not the Alabama offense. They were pedestrian and were legitimately at risk of losing this game because of the offense. They couldn't move the ball at all. They couldn't convert third downs. And I'll say it again, I do think Milroe is going to be a good player in the SEC. It's clear he's not ready, and it's clear they need Bryce Young if they're going to make good on the expectations that were put on Bama this season.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Florida State, NC State, 17-19 NC State. This was a good one as well. Closer than what I think it should have been. NC State comes out victorious, and Norvell getting some heat for some play calling at the end. At the same time, terrible throw.
Oh, it's awful. It's awful.
Terrible throw by Jordan Travis there.
Awful.
That got picked.
You don't put him in that position. That's my biggest thing.
Sure.
You just don't put him in that position.
Yeah. I still – Florida State has obviously looked a lot better this year than they did last year. Mm-hmm. I'm still not sold on Florida State by any means. There's just too much inconsistency with them. And being a guy that doesn't like Florida schools, it was so nice to see Florida State go down.
Yeah, for sure. I think the big news out of this is Devin Leary getting hurt. One of the 2, 3, 4 top quarterback prospects in next year's draft, but also the guy that really makes this NC State offense move. They might be without him this week in another pretty big game. So we'll see if they can make it work. But yeah, that's the big news really coming out of this, because I think it really impacted the way they played the rest of that game against Florida State too, because they seemed to be moving the ball really well, and then they went stale as soon as he went down. Florida State had opportunities late, and of course the kind of bonehead call but really bad throw kind of put the brakes on that. They were in kicking range and decided to get aggressive. I understand you don't trust your kicker a ton, but that's a tough way to lose a game.
Yep, absolutely. Last game of the night, Oregon, Arizona. Oregon taking care of business, 49-22. Really no shocker here with Oregon. So good win for them.
I still can't believe what this line was. It was like 11 or 10 or something. It was something silly that I couldn't fucking believe it that it was that low. It was a 13. Like, oh my God, they beat that by double.
What wasn't good.
I don't know what Vegas was doing.
Right?
Setting the trap or something. I don't know.
They were. They
always do.
Yep, that they do. That they do. Oh, all right. That was the review from last week's top 25 matchups. Let's take a quick sponsor break here before we get to our week 7 top 25 matchups. Sponsor break brought to you by PocketParaClub.com, club number 26881, PocketParaClub.com. All right. Thanks to our sponsor there, PocketParaClub.com. Pocket Pair Club, club number 26881 for all of your gambling needs. Please gamble responsibly. All right, Gary. We had a great week last week of top 25 matchups. We got another great week of top 25 matchups. Let's get to it. Starting off, Penn State, Michigan here. Michigan, 7-point favorite at home in the Big House against the Fighting Franklins. What are your thoughts here?
I don't trust what I've seen from Penn State so far this season.
Ooh.
I know they're undefeated. I know that they're ranked.
But that's been their memo. That's been their get to for the past few years.
Exactly. Right? So I think that this is where the season ends for them, essentially. I think Michigan's going to roll pretty comfortably in this. 2 scores, maybe 13, 14 points. That running game of Michigan, I think it's too much. And we saw it against Indiana last week. Indiana put up a valiant effort for a while, and then the running game really took over. Blake Corum started finding holes and gashing them. And I think we're going to see something similar here with Penn State. Michigan's defense is really good. Penn State's offense is meh. So I just think that Penn State's going to find it really hard to score points. They found it really hard to score points against some really inferior teams so far this year. So for me, I'm going Michigan, and I think it's 7 points. So I'm going to lay those points if I'm gambling on it this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's Penn State's been in this position before for past few years, 2, 3, 4 years. And it seems like midway through the season is when they stumble.
And they start to get into the heart of that Big Ten schedule.
Yeah. So, but not so fast in the Corso. I think this is the year that the Fighting Franks get the job done. They go over that hump, and they beat Michigan. So give me the Nittany Lions on the road at the Big House.
All right. Hey, I like it. I'm that passion. Let's see these upsets, man. I love when we see these top 10 upsets.
Absolutely.
A lot of chaos, a lot of turmoil in the rankings. I love it.
Auburn, Ole Miss. Ole Miss is 15-point favorite here at home. I really don't think we need to discuss this one because, honestly, I mean, I think Ole Miss.
That's not enough.
Yeah.
That's not enough.
Yeah.
So they're going to roll comfortably. Lane's got this offense rolling. We had some concerns early in the season if their quarterback was going to figure it out within this offense. Jackson Dart looks really good. Yeah. The offense is humming. They're running the ball well. That defense is playing pretty well to complement the offense. It's not enough. Auburn's not a good football team this year either.
No, not really. No. Kansas, Oklahoma, a 9-point favorite.
This was the surprise line of the week. Like, what is that? Did everybody just forget about 49-0?
This is a Vegas trap, right?
It's
Gary?
a trap line, right? Like it has to be. Oh my goodness. I'm taking the points with Kansas, but I'm not real confident in it if I'm doing it. I think Kansas is going to win this game, but I'm looking at that line like Vegas knows something I don't. And I'm fully prepared that if I'm betting on, maybe this is a game you just avoid if you're wagering.
Is Dylan Gabriel back?
He is back.
Yeah, okay.
But they didn't look good with him last time he played either. So if that's enough to swing the line that heavily, maybe that's what Vegas is looking at. I don't see it. This Oklahoma offense has struggled the last couple times out with and without Gabriel. The defense hasn't looked good, and that Kansas offense, they can score some points. So 9's too many. Maybe OU wins by a field goal, but not 9. Not 9.
I'm going OU. I just don't see Venable's team losing 4 straight. I don't see it. And maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe I am. You know, I know I just got done saying that I'm a believer in Kansas football, you know, but at the same time, it's OU. I know they've gotten blown out past couple games. At least their defense has not done a great job. But I don't know. I think Venables kind of gets that train back on the tracks here, and kind of swings things around here for the second part of the season, because obviously playoff aspirations are out the window and everything else like that. But at the same time, I'm just not sold on Kansas on this one.
That's fair. And all things even, right? If you told me Oklahoma was going to play like the Oklahoma we saw earlier in the year, they're a better team. They have more talent than Kansas.
Yeah. They've
just not looked good for at least 2 weeks. They've been blown out in a row, and then they lost a tough one before that. I don't know. I don't know. This feels – I'm probably going to be wrong. I'm fully anticipating that Vegas is setting me the fuck up, but I'm taking Kansas, man.
Yeah, that's good for you. Good for you. Stick to your guns here. Iowa State, Texas. Texas is a 16.5-point favorite here. You get Quentin Ewers back. I'm going to say that's not enough on this one.
Blowout.
Yeah.
I'm going a little closer. Texas is going to win, but if I'm wagering, give me the points with Iowa State. This is going to be a 13-point win for me, I think. That's where I'm at. Iowa State, for how much they can't score, they play really good defense.
Sure. Minnesota, Illinois, Minnesota, 6.5-point favorite here.
What the fuck is Illinois doing in the top 25?
That's a great question. Okay? Great question. I got Minnesota on this one. I'm with Vegas.
Yeah, this is a couple tutty game.
I will tend to agree.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I get like this is the weird point in the season where wins really shuffle things heavily and losses can shovel things even heavier. What the fuck is Illinois doing in the top 25? Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, show your Big Ten bias, wouldn't you? Like, good Lord.
Yeah.
There ain't no reason Illinois is a fucking top 25 team.
No. All right, you got Vandy, Georgia, 38-point favorites here. You know, Vegas giving Vandy some credit for their off-season training program and getting a few dubs this year early on in the season, but since then it's been slow coming. So yeah, give me Georgia.
Yeah, they're gonna roll. This is gonna be 49-7 or something crazy. They're gonna blow them out. 38's probably not enough.
Yeah, I tend to agree here. All right, moving on. Alabama, Tennessee, in Knoxville, Alabama, 7.5-point favorite. Bryce Young playing?
No guarantees, but I think he plays. I think he plays.
Okay. I'm gonna.
I think they're playing it close to the vest to put that seed of doubt in Tennessee's head.
I
think he's playing this week.
I'm gonna say he's not going to play.
Ooh.
I'm gonna call it right now.
Okay.
Hendon Hooker balls out, beats Bama at home.
I'm going to do you one better than that. I'm going to say that Bryce Young plays and Tennessee still wins at home.
All right.
I've got Tennessee in the upset. If this was in Tuscaloosa, I'm taking Bama. I don't know that I'm laying the points. I think it would still be a tight game. 7.5 feels like a lot. 7.5 feels like a ton on the road at Tennessee. I've got Tennessee winning outright here. That offense is silly.
That place is going to be loud. Nuts. And if Tennessee wins,
they're going to tear that place up.
They are going to tear it down.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
All right. Oklahoma State, TCU. Another top 25 matchup here between 8 Oklahoma State, 13 TCU. TCU is 3.5-point favorite. Gary, did the Horned Frogs show us something last week against Kansas that they're a 3.5-point favorite?
I think this has a lot to do with what we talked about with Oklahoma State. I think this has a lot to do with the fact that they've been winning ugly. TCU's offense has been humming along pretty well. I don't know that the win over Kansas is enough to convince me, so I'm taking Oklahoma State money line. I think that Oklahoma State in the upset here, the defense is going to do enough. Spencer Sanders has been playing really well for Oklahoma State on the offensive side of the ball. They've got a good run game, couple good wide receivers on the outside. That TCU defense was exposed against Kansas. I think that Oklahoma State's going to get on them early, maybe have to hold on for the win late because that's what they've been doing all fucking year. But give me the upset here with Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I like what Gundy's doing there. And Okie State's kind of had some close games. So if it does get into some of those close games, I'll take Okie State over TCU there.
Yeah, I think they can handle themselves in those games.
Yeah. NC State, Syracuse. Syracuse, 3.5-point favorite here over NC State.
You got the orange in the top 25.
We'll get to Syracuse a little bit more in our next segment.
Oh yeah.
But really?
They're not a top 25 team. Same thing with Illinois. They're not a top 25. They're 5-0, and I love it.
They're favored over NC State.
I think that has to. I don't think Vegas thinks Devin Leary's going to play this week. I think that's what that number boils down to. If he was a 100% go, I think if there's an announcement on Friday or Saturday that he's going, that line's going to swing hard. Because I have to think that that's why. Because if he's healthy, there's no way that Syracuse is favored in this. Honestly.
Give me NC State.
Yeah, NC State outright.
Yeah.
Look, I have the Syracuse hat on. I am from the Syracuse area originally. I am a Syracuse basketball fan. I'm not so much. I don't really have a college football team, but I will rep the orange when they are, good. They're not a top 25 team, man. They're not. And this, honestly, this is going to be the start of like a 4 or 5 game losing streak. I looked at their schedule. They're probably going to lose their next 4 or 5.
Yeah. James Madison.
The Dukes.
Southern. James Madison, 11.5-point favorite here. Give me Georgia Southern.
Oh! Oh, the big upset.
I'm pulling a big upset here.
Oh,
Why, Gary? You want to know why? Here's the reason why. These new teams that get put into the top 25 year in, year out, they don't last. They don't last long.
They don't have the Roadrunners staying power.
No, they don't. And I wish the Roadrunners were back in the top 25 so we could talk about the Roadrunners more often.
Yes,
but
sir.
they're not because they're not given enough credit,
Yeah.
you know? But no. Give me Georgia Southern here.
Yeah, I'm going to go the other way. Georgia Southern is, if they get the running game going, I'm going to be wrong, right? But JMU's got a really talented, really fast defense, and their offense is putting up some good points here. I just think that JMU is the class of that conference, and I think they're going to roll here against Georgia Southern. So JMU might run the table, honestly, and they're going to be like the UCF of yesteryear and finish in the top 15 as an undefeated team. But they're the class of that conference, and it's exactly what we talked about with like Syracuse and with Illinois. Like this middle part of the season is where you have some teams that are going to finish in the top 25, drop games in these weeks, and they drop out of the top 25 because of record and because of recency bias, because that's what the top 25 poll is. These are the teams that sneak in. JMU sneaks in, Syracuse sneaks in, Illinois sneaks in. So it's a weird part of the season. We see JMU probably in the top 25 before they should be. Maybe later in the season, if they were 8-0, 9-0, 10-0, you'd see them in the top 25, and I wouldn't really say like, that's weird. But that for me is why. But they are the class of that conference. I feel like they're going to roll here against Georgia Southern. But listen, I love the energy with the upset, though. That's a big upset too, because that's a 12-point upset, man. Like that's a big upset. I like that energy.
I'll collect my winnings after the game.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'd like it all in American, please.
That's right. Clemson, Florida State. Clemson, 3.5-point favorite. Okay. I'm sorry that I'm cutting in right away here and
good.
cutting you off.
Get it.
But are we fucking serious right now? Are we watching the same fucking games? Like, I get it. We've both been hard on DJ Ungalagave. Okay. I know I just butchered his last name. Okay. I get it. Okay. But he deserves that too for the way he plays, though, too. Okay. He's been inconsistent, just like I was inconsistent with his pronunciation of his last name. But are we seriously putting this as a 3.5-point favorite right now? Like, get the fuck out of here.
That's
get the fuck out of here. And I'm scratching my head at this one.
This feels like free money.
Absolutely. Like,
Florida State doesn't have the horses to stay with.
3.5-point favorite. And this is the thing. Here's the thing. Vegas has been on the Florida State train all year long.
Yeah.
I don't know what Vegas sees right now.
It's got to be something that the money moves with Florida State or something. I don't know, man. This line feels like free money.
Give me Clemson. Fucking just give it to me.
Yeah. I mean, anything less than a dozen to me feels weird.
DJ, fucking play your ass off.
Yeah, don't go out there and throw 6 tutties and make a liar out of us.
Man.
Oh,
that just frustrates me.
There's 6 picks, not tutties.
Mississippi State, Kentucky. Mississippi State, 6.5-point favorite. I like it. This is going to be a good matchup. This is, I think, for me, this is one of those games that I'm really looking forward to watching, just because I want to see how Kentucky bounces back from an upset loss. Slovis is probably back this week, but also to see what Mississippi State can do. Can they keep that winning trajectory, keep going up? Because their MO for the past few years too has been, kind of wish-washy as well. So let's see what they can do too. But they're playing at a high level too. So Leach or Stoops here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a couple of resident favorites for us.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go with the true Mike Leach.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah,
I'm even gonna lay the points, honestly.
Yeah.
I think that offense is too high powered. Kentucky to me was exposed a little bit last week. Defensively, they don't have a ton of options offensively. So if Levis doesn't have a great game, they're not going to play very well. I love Kentucky, and we've professed that here. I've got a soft spot for Kentucky football. We like Stoops. We like what the program's been doing, but we also love Mike Leach. And I just think they're on a different trajectory right now in Mississippi State, versus what's going on with Kentucky. I think Kentucky rode the high all the way up into the top 10, and the fall has just been a bit much. And I think they're going to kind of scuffle the rest of the way of this season. They could finish the season 7-6 and be kind of an afterthought in a bowl game. Whereas right now, Mississippi State feels like they've got a little bit of swag, kind of a hitch in their giddy up. And Mike Leach is leading the charge with that, with him and his post-game marriage advice. And
absolutely. And his
pregame
coffee ritual.
Pregame coffee ritual, right. One sip at a time, baby. One sip at a time. But, yeah, I'm with you. I think so. And if I'm wagering on this one, I'm laying the points. I'm not super confident in this one, though. So if this was I don't know that I'm going to wager on this one. But I'm going to pick Mississippi State to win the game.
Nice. All right, last game of the night of the top 25s. USC, Utah. Utah, 3.5-point favorites. They were 3.5-point favorites last week against UCLA. They are at home, though.
They are.
Gary, I'll let you pick this one first.
I'm going USC on this, and outright to win. To me, I just think USC right now they're clicking, right? And Caleb Williams looks like he's playing really well on that offensive side. They've got a lot of weapons offensively. Their defense is playing pretty well, turning the ball over here and there. Really playing kind of bend but don't break defense against some of these Pac-12 offenses. And that, I think, is the weakness of Utah's offense. They've got some big strike capability. Cam Rising can really hit some big plays. That running game tends to rely on some of those big breakouts and 20-plus runs. And I don't think USC gives up enough of those for Utah to make a difference here. I get the line because they're at home, but I'm taking USC in the road upset.
All right. Well, I'm going to go opposite. I'm going to take the home team. I'm going to take the Utes just because, I just don't care for USC.
Hey, passion, baby, passion.
Yeah. But no, it'll be interesting to see if how Utah responds coming off that loss to that's 2 losses now for them. Florida beginning the season and now UCLA. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond now. So
they're a tough out. They could play spoiler for USC this week, and Oregon, I believe they still have on the schedule. They could be a spoiler here in the Pac-12 because if one of those teams goes and knocks off UCLA, then suddenly you've got everybody's a one-loss team in the Pac-12, and suddenly the Pac-12's probably on the outside looking in the playoffs. So,
Yep.
I think somebody has to run the table in that conference.
You would think so.
And we know Oregon's not going to do it because they got boat raced by Georgia. So
yeah,
you're looking at the 2 teams in LA as kind of your last hope for the playoffs in that conference, I think.
Yep. All right, Gary. That was the top 25 preview for this week. Let's close out the show with a nice little segment we like to call a little Heisman Stock Report. So, number 5 for you.
Yeah, buddy. We're making a homer pick here, okay?
Yeah.
This is the only time that I'm likely going to be able to, on this show, shout out the Syracuse Orange in the Heisman Stock Report. Not just this season. This is kind of an anomaly here. Garrett Schrader, though, and I've got some stats for you here and why I got him at number 5. 1,200 plus yards thrown on the season, 10 tutties, 1 interception, and he's a dual threat. 200 plus yards rushing, 5 tutties to go along with his 10 passing touchdowns. Garrett Schrader is leading the 5-0 Syracuse Orange right now, and it's high time in the Carrier Dome. Love to see it. Love to see it. I'm not a believer, unfortunately. I'm kind of a realist when it comes to what Syracuse football actually is, but I love to be able to shout out Garrett Schrader here in the Heisman Stock Report at number 5 for me.
Yeah, definitely a homer pick here, and like you said, going to be about the only time that his name will come up in the Heisman Stock Report for the season.
100%.
But so I did a little something here. I got like a 5A, 5B here. Okay. I got Drake May, the freshman out of UNC, and then I also got Will Rogers Jr. out of Mississippi State. So you want to talk a little numbers here. Okay, so Drake May, 1,900 yards passing, 21 tuds to go to 3 INTs. Okay. Then you also have Will Rogers, 2,100 yards passing, 22 tuds to go along with 3 INTs. So the freshman
quarterback's doing the damn thing.
Yeah. Drake May, possible freshman winner since Johnny Manziel. I mean, we'll see. Plays in the ACC. So, he's got that he has to deal with as well. Now, his QBR is in the 90s compared to Will Rogers, who I think he's in the 70s. So if I had to do a true number 5, I'd probably put Drake May over Will Rogers, but those guys are helping their teams to some good seasons so far and putting up some good numbers.
Yes, sir. So, yeah, I like Drake May, and honestly, if I'm a UNC fan, I have to think that we've got a 2-year window with him next year in his junior year to say,
yep,
if we're going to make a play in the ACC, if we're going to make a play to maybe be a playoff team, those are the 2 years that we really need to focus on, because this dude is the real deal. And he's not playing 4 years in UNC. He's going to be in the NFL in 2 years.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's move on to number 4 here, where we're kind of a little on the same page here.
Yeah.
Oh, Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same story as last week. He's been Mr. Consistent. His numbers are really good. I don't know that he's yet at that point that he's had his Heisman moment. I think, he's got some opportunities with some big games coming up. They got Utah this week. If he has a big game there, that could be a Heisman moment for him. I'm waiting for him to kind of have that breakout. And it might be a little bit of kind of, we expect him to play well because of the athlete that he is, but he's also got a lot of help on the outside, which doesn't necessarily say like, okay, he's carrying this team by himself, but he's got some opportunities. He's got a couple of big games left on the schedule in the Pac-12 that I think he can make a statement. If he's going to push himself into that real contention to win the Heisman, it's going to be in those games.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, he's got some help on the outside. Yeah. I mean, who wouldn't want Jordan Addison to be on the outside as your number 1 wide receiver?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Caleb Williams there, number 4. And also, too, Pac-12 hasn't played, to me, I keep saying it every week, but hasn't played, that great a competition just yet.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But yeah, Caleb Williams at number 4 there. Number 3 for our Heisman Stock Report. No, this one was no change for you, correct, Gary?
I moved him up 1. He was 4 for me last week. Caleb Williams moved down 1 for me.
Okay. All right.
It's the statement, right? Like I said, Caleb hasn't had an opportunity to make that statement. back-to-back weeks for DTR. He's knocked off Washington and Utah. I know both games were at home, but 2 upset wins against highly ranked Pac-12 teams. He is the engine that makes this offense go. He's in full command of this Chip Kelly, spread him out, pick him apart offense. And they're undefeated and coming off 2 really big wins. They're on a bye this week, so he's not going to have an opportunity to necessarily improve his stock this week. But for me, this is the guy that at the end of the season, we're going to look at it. If UCLA runs the table and he really is the cog that makes this machine work, he's going to start getting votes based simply on that. The fact that he is that guy on a team that there were 0 expectations for UCLA this year. They were well outside the top 25 to start the season. And now they're looking at potentially finishing the season top 10, top 5. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And I, like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm fully on board with UCLA, fully on board with DTR. I love the way the guy plays. He's a fucking dog.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that is benefiting from staying another year in college.
Yep, absolutely.
Definitely upped his draft stock already so far. So see where he can go. I got Hendon Hooker, number 3 here. Hendon Hooker. He makes that offense go, baby.
Yes,
makes it go. Man, if he can do what I predicted this week against Bama, woo!
Oh yeah,
might move him up, baby. Might move him up.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta have to. You would think,
mm-hmm.
but we shall see. But no, Hendon Hooker having a great year so far. Really the leader of that offense, of that team there up there in Knoxville, and be a good game to definitely test those Heisman stats here.
Yeah, for sure.
These are those games that committee looks at.
Oh yeah.
How you perform in these types of games, in these types of moments, and we shall see this Saturday. All right, Gary, number 2, you got Hendon Hooker.
Yeah, I've got him up there, and honestly, like, number 1 is the only difference for us. Really, I think the way it slots, and for Hooker is like you put it perfectly. Everything you said about Hendon Hooker is really the reason I've got him at number 2. They're the best offense in college football. He's the engine that makes it go. Just making huge plays week in, week out with both his feet and his arm. Him and Heupel are clearly brain synced when it comes to running this offense, because they put up points in fucking bunches and in a hurry. It's crazy to watch this offense go. They've got some playmakers on the outside, but Hooker really, he spreads the ball around a lot. Like I said, uses his feet a lot of times to get first downs and to extend drives. So it's awesome watching him play. Big, strong guy. I'm excited to see where he lands, especially in the draft as well after this season. But if he goes down, or if he knocks off Alabama this week, they have another big game offensively. It's going to be really hard to not leapfrog him up to number 1 for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like it. I like where you have him. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, it comes down to this game for him. I mean, I really believe so.
Yep.
So, I got CJ Stroud at number 2. And like I said last week, for him, they're just blowing people out. They haven't had a close game. They haven't. And they already have 40 some points put up by the third quarter. And when you have receivers like you do, it makes it easy for you. When those receivers are making the freaking catches that they're doing, I mean, they're up in their draft stock status along with yours at the same damn time. So it's yeah, he's the clear favorite, I think, in everyone's eyes, but so that's why he's my number 2, because he's not my clear favorite. I don't know on it anymore. You know, we'll move on to number one. You know, you got Studson Bennett over here. He's just winning games, has the number one team, you know, in the country, and coming off a natty, you know, smoking some cigars,
Drinking some
and
whiskey.
you know, one INT, but only 5 tuds, but almost has 1,800 passing yards. I mean, they don't need to throw the ball. They don't need to, but he gets the job done when he has to.
Yep.
You know, come on, give it to Studson. Studson for president.
Studson for Prez. I love him. I think it does come down to the stats with him.
It does.
He's
really
not
does.
going to get
No.
he's not going to get the recognition because they just don't throw a lot of touchdowns. They run like crazy for touchdowns.
Yeah.
They score a ton of points, but somehow
don't
he's
get
only got 5 fucking touchdown passes. That's insanity to me. He runs that offense really efficiently for sure. And as you mentioned, 1,800 yards. It's hard to pass for 1,800 yards in fucking 6 games and only have 5 touchdown passes. That's wild.
Yeah.
But
well, and you look at the other quarterbacks that we have in our Heisman Stock Report, okay? Anyone over 1,600 passing yards, they have at least 15
20,
passing
15.
touchdowns.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You know? It's just it's
crazy.
baffling. It's baffling to me, but like you said, they don't need to throw it all the time.
Yeah.
They can run it for a damn touchdown. I mean, you know, that's just how good their offensive line is, how good their running back is, and everything.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that makes it tough for him to get any Heisman shine for real. And CJ Stroud, like you said, they're just blowing teams out. He's putting up a ton of points. He's gonna finish the season probably with 50 touchdown passes. It's going to come down to those big games, really. It's going to come down to the Michigan game. It's going to come down to, I believe they've got Penn State this year. So it's going to come down to those games for me with CJ Stroud, and we'll see how those shake out to see if he stays there. Yeah, Frank's number 6.
Yeah, Frank's right there, bud. He was, you know, I had a 5A and a 5B. Frank was 6A, buddy.
Frank was 6A. Nah, we love Frank Harris. We love the Roadrunners on this show. It's going to take a lot for him to get consideration in the Heisman voting. However, I do still firmly believe that Frank Harris is going to be a backup quarterback somewhere in the NFL and get a shot. He's going to play in a system with a Trey Lance, a Lamar Jackson, something along those lines.
Are you you're wanting to piss Aaron off tonight?
I know. He's going to be a Super Bowl starting quarterback.
Oh man. Well, there's our Heisman stock report list for this week, and have some newcomers for this week. Obviously, as our number 5 and 5A, 5B has shown. And we had some people move up a spot, and had some people move out from last week. So another great slate of games scheduled for this week. So we'll see how our Heisman candidates fare this week, and see if they make the cut for next week.
Yeah, for sure. Caleb Williams, I think, has the number one opportunity of the guys that we have on our report this week, obviously playing Utah at Utah. He's got probably the biggest opportunity to really make a jump in his Heisman campaign if he can go there and hang a big number on Utah and really play well. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out this week. And then as we get the following weeks, like we've been talking about, these matchups are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah. And it's going to be opportunities for guys to either jostle up or fall down in the rankings.
Absolutely. So, well, Gary, another great episode of Tailgate Trash Talk. Previewed top 25 matchups this week. We did our Heisman stock report. We had some newbies. We left some people out that should have been left out, but maybe we left some people that shouldn't have been left out. Another week for them to prove themselves to us, to hopefully make the Tailgate Trash Talk Heisman stock report for next week. Gary, another great episode, bud. I appreciate you joining. Appreciate you throwing in the banter back and forth.
Yes, sir.
Your knowledge, it's, a sponge.
A
You know,
sponge.
you're just a sponge of knowledge over there, and appreciate it, bud. Another great
Sure.
episode and another great slate of games scheduled for this week. I can't wait to watch some games, watch some football, and maybe have a little banter back and forth like
Yes,
we
sir.
always do every week.
Absolutely.
Well, that does it for us here on Tailgate Trash Talk, and catch us next week where we will recap our matchups from this week, preview next week's episode or matchups, and have another great slate of Heisman Stock Report. For myself and Gary, we are out.